Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I am playing my, I suppose, signature deck at this point, which is green-black turbodepths. We're trying a little bit of stuff out in the sideboard, but it's still the same list as the last couple of times because it feels really good right now. So if you're unfamiliar with what turbodepths is, we're using dark depths to make a 2020. We either do this by copying it with Thespian stage, so our copy has no counters on it, becomes a 2020, or removing all the counters with a Vampire Hexmage. To facilitate this, we've got 8 shooters, we've got a bunch of fast mana and Lotus Petals and Elvish Spirit Guides, we've got Disruption in the form of Duress and Thoughtseize, and Pithing Needle, which can disrupt things like Caracas, Wasteland, etc. And we have 3 Knot of this World to deflect some removal on our guy for people who have things like Swords to Plowshares, or it can stop a Caracas activation, it can stop a triggered ability from a Solitude. It does quite a lot. So this is the list we're running. We've got a few silver bullets in our land. Things like the Boseiju, we can shoot her up with the Sylvan Scrying and blow stuff up. A Bojuka Bog for a bit of graveyard hate. A Sejiri Steppe to protect our creature. And a Ghost Quarter to blow up scary enemy lands, because we're going to be putting Pithing Needle on Wasteland quite often. So Ghost Quarter is something that we can use to then blow up the second annoying land, so like a Caracas or whatever. The reason I think this deck is quite well attuned to the meta right now is we don't care in the slightest about Orcish Bowmasters, really. And also, Orcish Bowmasters has kind of reduced decks like 8-cast a little bit, which was a matchup we weren't really a big fan of. As well as that, it's also reduced the amount of like Icefang Quattles and Baleful Strixes, which are creatures that we sometimes have to turn sideways multiple times to get through. So, yeah, I think we're in a reasonable spot in the meta now. I think the last league I ran, I only lost to lands, which is probably the worst matchup in the format right now. But let's talk about the sideboard here. So, we've got the Leyline of the Void as usual. We have the 4 Abrupt Decay as usual. Obviously, Graveyard Hate, blowing up Opposition Agent, Blood Moon, and Makes of the Moon. It's pretty well, it's essential for our deck. We can only win with our 2020, really. So the Collector Ouphe and Null Rod, there's so many like heavy into artifact decks right now. 8-cast has dropped off a bit, but Painter's still around, and then we have things like the Turbo One Ring decks that we need to deal with. And this is where we're changing up the sideboard from the last time. So we have 1 Knot of this Wild as an additional piece of protection for our creature, but then we have 2 Tamiyo Safekeeping that we're trying out. So our lands matchup is not good. So the idea is that this is a 1-mana thing that can protect our lands, for example. So we can get around a Wasteland. You can also get around things like Caracas on our Marit Lage token. So it's quite handy. And in other matchups where they've got lots of removal, like Swords to Plowshares, we can bring it in there. But the fact that this gives us protection against Wasteland and things as well. So it can kind of work a bit like a better Stifle, but it's also on colour for us as well. That's the reasoning behind this one. I'm not entirely sure this is going to be good enough, but I think it's something that we should test. And if you don't test things, then you never learn anything new. So that's what we're doing today. We're trying to get paired into horrible matchups like lands and see if Tamiyo's Safekeeping is any good. Probably should have run a 3rd one here just so we could test it a bit more. But I want to sort of test the 4th Knot of this World back in the sideboard as well. Alright, that's it for the deck. If you're interested in this deck, on my Patreon, which is in the description below, there is an incredibly detailed primer of this deck that gets updated monthly. So if you're interested, join my 2020 specialist tier, which also has articles about different dark depth strategies and builds. So if that's your jam, have a look there. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and let's get to playing some turbodepths. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, we're into round 1 here. We have no permanent sources of mana, so this is an easy mulligan. This has our combo sewn up in a few turns. We just need a little bit more mana. So I think we do keep this, and we're probably bottoming the Duress. This is a little bit on the slow side for me, but we're on the draw, and there's a bunch of cards that can really change this. Alright, are we just going to get Thoughtseize off of the bad lands? Sure. I think we're probably losing the Thoughtseize. But if they don't take the Sylvan Scrying and they are a reanimated deck, we might be able to draw a piece of fast mana and play the Sylvan Scrying, get a Bojuka Bog and play it if they put something in the graveyard now. They might just be something like Grixis Delver with a Badlands in though. So what are we playing out here? If we play out the Thespian stage, it gives us the combo sooner rather than later. So if they are reanimated, we want to try and at least go a little bit faster. So this will go and get us an Urborg, I think. We have green from the Catacombs if we need it. So we get an Urborg here. So between Urborg, Thespian stage and Dark Depths, that gives us a turn 3 2020. Now if our opponent is on Delver and they have Wastelands, then it's very different. A basic mountain. Okay, now I don't know what our opponent is necessarily playing. I would like to see though. So we're going to play out our Urborg. And we're going to duress our opponent. Brainstorm, Shoulder's Edict. Understood, opponent. I will take one of your Shoulder's Edicts, please. Yikes. Sejiri Steppe, not going to help there. We can put our opponent in a position where they don't ever get to cast any spells, though. Because we instantly make our guy. Alright. So now we've put our opponent in sort of check. If they ever drop their Shoulder's Edict in their turn, then we get to combo off. There's another Urborg. That's not really what we're after here. Got Thespian stage and pass. We should have copied their mountain with our Thespian stage earlier. So our opponent just can't cast their spells. They look like they're on Grixis control. This means that this can't be wastelanded. A crop rotation. What does that do here? This gives us a chance to do our combo, and then if that doesn't work, we can then combo the next turn. Opponent's still unable to play spells over there. So we lose 2 lands here, but that's still fine. Alright, so this one will copy this Dark Depths. They should do this in their turn, I think. No, they're just going to clean up. Interesting. Right, they're doing it in our upkeep, sure. Okay, but we have the combo ready to roll again here, and we get a free duress on the way out as well. So this is the duress. Yeah, we play the other Urborg here. Just makes sure we can resolve our thing. Okay, so we take the Force of Will here. Now this seems like a good time to play our Urborg, keep this one. We didn't even need to do that. We could have sacrificed the Urborg, couldn't we? And we'd have ended up with 1 more land than we have now. But that's fine. Get Bayou. Sacrifice this Bayou. Go and get another Dark Depths. We have Baleful Strix beat with the Sejiri Steppe in hand if they do find a blue source here. They found a blue source. Okay, so we know their whole hand. What are they going to go for here? Is it Brainstorm? It's the Ponder. Does this mean our opponent has a 3rd Shoulder's Edict in their deck? That's a lot of main deck hate for our poor little Dark Depths player. They chose not to shuffle their library. That's really annoying, isn't it? Like, we do have to go now, I think. If they manage to find another one, then that's pretty irritating. Alright, no, they didn't have it. Sure. But they decided not to shuffle in case it changed the way we played, because we might have thought, oh, they have it. We need to draw some more answers. So that was kind of a really interesting heads-up play. Like, yes, they could have shuffled and maybe had what they want, but we're definitely going to go for it if they shuffle. But maybe we don't if they don't shuffle. Alright. I think we were always going there, from my perspective, because our opponent has just accessed their blue mana, so they're going to be able to get all the things they want. So, what is going to be good against our opponent's deck? Honestly, I don't know if we're going to need anything else. Now, if they're a Grixis deck, they might have access to Blood Moon. I believe Bosch and Roll played a build recently with a couple of Blood Moons. So I'm kind of inclined to get some Abrupt Decays. I don't think we're going to need Not of This World here. So then we can bring in 3 Abrupt Decays, which can also blow up the blockers of Baleful Strix. There's an argument for Leyline the Void, but that's not really where I want to be, I don't think. We could trim some of our fast mana if we wanted to, try and make the game go a little bit longer. But I think this is probably a fine place to begin. Okay, so we're just looking for one of our other combo pieces. We have Hand Disruption, which is important. We have some fast mana. We have an answer to Blood Moon as well. But we need to draw either Crop Rotation, Sylvan Scrying, Dark Depths, or Vampire Hexmage. So that's 16 cards out of 53. So we're looking at like maybe 4 draws before we should be hitting that. That seems like quite a big ask. I do like the Abrupt Decay. I think we're going to mulligan though. I think we need to get something that gets on the board a little quicker. Right, this is the turn 2. I think we'll keep this. And we'll get rid of this Sejiri Steppe. If our opponent is on a Blood Moon line, we can also deal with that. A Volcanic Island, sure. A Pithing Needle. Let's play out Thespian stage. Let's play out Lotus Petal. Let's play out Pithing Needle on Wasteland. in case that's the thing our opponent has access to. So we played the Petal out so we can play around Daze. I don't think we want to fire off for a Thoughtseize, because we might need this mana for our Dark Depths. A Brainstorm from our opponent. So the plan is to try and either draw a black source here, or we have to decide if we're ready to go for it or not. I didn't shuffle those things away. Okay, we've drawn a black source. I think this is an important time to go off here, although if we wait till next turn, we can Thoughtseize with maximum information. So I think that's probably the safer line. I'm trying to think if they have anything for 3 mana that we're really worried about. We have the Abrupt Decay if that's the case, if it's really bad. So I think we pass, and then we have the ability to Dark Depths and Thoughtseize in 1 turn cycle. Let's crack this. Have you got a Stifle over there, opponent? They do not have a Stifle. Sure, we'll get this basic Swamp, I think. Maybe that should have been a Bayou. Actually, that was a mistake. Okay, let's Thoughtseize our opponent here. Force of Will, Orcish Bowmaster, Surgical Extraction, Baleful Strix. We take the Baleful Strix. And we see if they counter our Lotus Petal, I guess. Is this worth countering? 0 mana. They did not counter that. Okay. So we can play out the Dark Depths. And then our opponent is dead on our next turn, unless the top card of their library is an Edict effect. If it is an Edict effect, I'm going to be a bit annoyed by the prospect of... they can't even Edict with this mana. It could be a Brazen Borrower is the thing that can kill us here. It's surgically extracting our Dark Depths. Okay. Like, this is our one time to go off here. Do you have a Brazen Borrower in your hand? They do. We can skip this one. Alright. That was unfortunate. So, do you want to do anything differently here? Do I think we need these Abrupt Decays? Like, if they were not of this world, we would have won that. Well, actually, that's not true. They would have had all these Force of Wills. Interesting. Maybe we can trim a Pithing Needle for Not of This World. Obviously, Not of This World helps against Borrower, but not against the Edict effects. Submit. Interesting. I'll keep this. We have a lot of disruption. We have access to our thing when we need it. But we get to have a little check of our opponent's hand before we start doing anything. Now, we have a lot of lands in our deck, so it's the most abundant thing we can draw. Opposition Agent, Shouldered Edict. I guess we take the Shouldered Edict first. And then we go for the Opposition Agent in a bit. Because that's obviously an annoying one if we're trying to crop rotate. But our opponent doesn't have a way of ramping it out. So if we draw Dark Depths next turn, we can just go. Those are bad lands. We also have an answer for Opposition Agent in Abrupt Decay. Although casting Abrupt Decay isn't always the easiest thing for us. Okay, a Sylvan Scrying. Interesting. Try this Lotus Petal. I think we do just cast a Thoughtseize here. Alright. We can take the Snapcaster Mage because that represents another Shouldered Edict, or we take the Opposition Agent, which I think is the better play here. Alright. So, if we can draw a land that produces either green or black, which is most of our lands, then we can combo off. Unless our opponent happens to draw a counterspell. We found a land that doesn't produce green or black. That is interesting, isn't it? So playing this out, this is our only green source, which is awkward. So we could crop rotate into Yavimaya and then Sylvan Scrying, or we could turn this into Urborg. I think we just need to draw another green mana source. So our opponent's got the ability to double bolt when they want. They're just going to cast some Orcish Bowmasters here, and that's fine. So if we draw Dark Depths next turn, we can go. If we draw a green source, we can go. So like the majority of our deck is live, and it was live last turn as well. So we're just going to get the beat down here. Didn't draw a land that turn. Okay, I think given this situation now, we're going to go for a Sylvan Scrying. Okay, they have a Force of Will now, pitching the Snapcaster Mage. So the one card they had that turn. Alright, so we're a little bit further away now. And Lightning Bolt 2, sure. We've got pretty jammed up with our draws here. We could have mulliganed a little bit more aggressively, but our hand only needed one of the most abundant things in our deck to go off. With double protection, which certainly felt good enough to me. But now we are down to not a lot of turns a Boseiju. Nice of you to show up. So we can play our Boseiju. We can Sylvan Scrying this turn. We take 3, 4, 5. Next turn we have a 20/20 to block with, so we take 6. If they draw a Snapcaster Mage, they kill us. I think that might just be the risk we have to take here. We can't turn anything into anything better here, can we? Alright, so we're just going for Sylvan Scrying here. The margins this game will be won or lost on are going to be relatively tight. Okay, so we're going to take 5 and then another one. Alright, if they've got another Bowmasters here, they should have done it earlier. So this could be a Brazen Borrower just as a beat stick. I think that would be correct if they had it. Colligan's Command and shoot us for 2. So now we take 3, 4, 5 and we go to 1. So we're now no longer able to win this game. We'll have to do some weird stuff here because they can Opposition Agent or they can Lightning Bolt us. But either of them should be game over. Thoughtseize, not really very helpful. So we can copy our Dark Depths here. We can block their 3/2, take 2, take 1 from the Lightning Bolt. Is there a way that we can get around this? We can kill their 3/2, and then what? We can go and get an Urborg here, which gives us what exactly? That allows us to make a Hexmage. That still doesn't change the clock. I think we just have to hope our opponent makes a mistake here. Yeah, we were a bit unfortunate with our draws here. Here comes the Oppo agent. Unless they forget that they have the Lightning Bolt in hand, they should have us dead here. They also have the potential for Snapcaster to kill us as well. Alright, they've attacked correctly here. Yeah, so they can just bolt us and kill us here. Yep, that's a really unfortunate one. So game 1, they happened to have both of their... They had 2 edicts that we had to play around, but we managed to get there. Game 2, they had the last card off the top because they... I'm just trying to think, did they brainstorm? I'm trying to think if they brainstormed that card to the top or not. But it was the last possible draw they had in that game for an answer for what we're doing, and they happened to have it, which was a bit frustrating. And then this game, we just needed to find like Dark Depths or a green source for a few turns, and we just couldn't find them. Awkward. Alright, let's go to round 2. Welcome to round 2. This is our opening hand. It doesn't have access to Dark Depths, which means we can't keep it. This one also doesn't have access to Dark Depths, which means we can't keep it. This one does have access to Dark Depths, but it's not very good. Is a 4 better? I think so. Yikes, this hand isn't very good either. I think we got to go to 3 here. Sure, this does some stuff, I guess. So no Bojuka Bog for us. No second Urborg. 2 more of these have got to go. I guess that means we're losing Thoughtseize and the Needle. This gives us a potential turn 2 if we can draw a Hexmage. A basic island, sure. So our opponent is probably just thinking they can counter 1 spell and this game will be over. And they're not really wrong. Let's play this Verdant Catacombs. Our opponent's probably expecting us to be Reanimator here. So I'm kind of inclined to... We do have to play the Urborg out just to try and win the game though. But this crop rotation might be a difficult one to resolve against the mono blue player over there. I don't know if they are mono blue, but... Another crop rotation. We do have to play out the Urborg here. So the game plan here is, if we can draw either half of our combo, we can go off. If we draw Vampire Hexmage, we can go off. Provided that our crop rotation against this blue-white control deck resolves. Now, I'm pretty suspicious that our opponent's hand is just full of counterspells. They haven't been doing any cantripping up till now, which makes me think they were holding open something like Missteps. A Bayou. So we can go off here if our stuff resolves. Let's see what our opponent does in their turn. We can fire off a cheeky Bayou into something else here and see if that resolves. A Narset Part of Veils. Sure, that can resolve. Are we supposed to try and go for it in response to their Narset here? I think, unfortunately, we are. Alright, here comes a counterspell from our opponent. Okay. We've been gifted a Dark Depths here. Bayou here. Okay, we might be in. Alright, you can resolve your Narset. We have a Not of This World to protect against Day's Undoing. That's going to be too slow, my friend. Now, they could have a counterspell and they're just saving it for our Dark Depths if we try and protect it somehow. But we mull to 3 and we have the ability to put a win on the board. We may as well take it. Here comes the Source of Plowshares. No, not yet. Can let me draw another card? No, you're going to do it in my upkeep, sure. You got a Force of Will over their opponent? They have a Force of Negation. Okay, so we're back to nothing. Excellent. Alright, we are 2/3 of the way there, sort of. We do need a green source for this, but if we could draw a Yavimaya, then we'd be absolutely sorted. Our opponent does have to win the game. This might take a little bit longer than expected, but their deck takes so long to win the game usually that we... Alright, so they're probably going to put the Force... Oh, they're going for Ponder, sure. That tells us a lot about their hand. They're looking for more stuff, which seems weird to do. Are they going to cast this Day's Undoing? Okay, so it didn't really matter either way what they did with their Mystic thingamajig. Alright, another land. Excellent. They put it on top just to shuffle when it was going to get shuffled in anyway. But they just wanted the extra land, which makes sense. Alright, another land from our opponent. A Hull Breacher. Sure, the next Day's Undoing is going to be worse for us. Understood. Dress down. Not really that big a deal for us to dress down. A Sylvan Scrying. Right, let's go for green and 1. Will this resolve? I suspect not. But it's something we can put into play that Hull Breacher can't take out of our hand. A Spellpiece, sure. Considering our opponent can wheel our hand away, we kind of just have to make the plays we have. And then see how we go. Alright. Our opponent can Day's Undoing again, but that doesn't win them the game. They need to have the specific answers to our thing if we can present it, which is annoying. Like the chances of them winning this game are very high, but because there's a very real chance they can't, and that we can actually get the win, it means we have to keep playing, which is very irritating. Are they hard casting Shark Typhoon? No, they're casting 4th Eonlingus. Okay. So this is a big chunk of my life total and the Monarch for them. Alright, that's probably going to win the game in short order. Oh, okay. We do have to keep playing this game because we can win it. Teferi, sure. Doesn't really impact what we're doing. It's just a very good card. Does ordinary things. It's not like we're playing a suspend deck where we can't do any of our stuff. Alright, they've got 7 cards in hand. At least they have a quick clock. Alright, let's pass the turn. Let's copy their planes here. And we can have 6 through the turn. Just a little bit of wasteland insurance. Just in case that's something our opponent has. I suspect they're probably more on like Ruination out the sideboard than they are. Or Blood Moon, rather than having the wastelands in the main. It's normally how these Jeskai decks tend to run. A Duress. Alright, we get to see more of our opponent's hand before we concede. That's exciting. Let's see if they've got anything unusual in there. It's free information. We're not going to use the whole clock in this game anyway. Alright, they're brainstorming so that we don't get to see something in their hand that might be a bit spicy. Sure. Plenty of things. The Teferi does allow them to cast Prismatic Ending at instant speed. That's one of the only things it does. So, our opponent's deck, going to be a little bit annoying to play against. If we think they have Blood Moon, we have to bring in the Decays. If we think they're on Ruination, we don't have to do that. We can rely on our Needles to do the work. We probably have space for 1 Abrupt Decay here if we're boarding out the Pithing Needles. Pithing Needle does stop Teferi and it can stop Karakas, if that's something we're interested in. Abrupt Decay does kill the Hull Breacher. We're kind of trying to win the game before that's really an issue. We can have a Pithing Needle or we can have an Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay on Teferi is quite useful. Pithing Needle on Teferi Also useful. I think we'll keep the Decay just in case they do have a Blood Moon, so at least we have something to draw to. But the way we're trying to win this game is with a whole bunch of discard spells. We have access to our thing, but this hand is kind of clunky. So we'll be drawing to 8 of our combo pieces plus 7 tutor effects. That's quite a lot of cards to draw to. I think we can do better though. Is this better? I don't think so. I think we're going to mulligan again. Having a bit of a rough ride. Okay, this is the best one yet. We'll keep this. So, 2 cards got to go on the bottom. Are we trying to Duress or are we trying to Tamiyo Safekeeping? I think due to the fact that we're on reduced resources, it's better just to get these Duresses up and running. We do want to keep the Boseiju because that tutors for our things if we can find a green source. But we've got turn 1, Dark Depths, Duress. Turn 2, maybe Vampire Hexmage, Dark Depths kill them. Okay, so they do have Blood Moons, so that's information to know about. That's fine. We'll take that. So that's instead of the Ruinations. That's something we're going to have to play around if we get to a game 3 here. Although we might have just mulliganed our way entirely out of this game, which sometimes happens when you're playing a combo deck like this. Do I want to play the Dark Depths out now? If they play something like a Blood Moon, we want to play the Dark Depths afterwards. Does that mean we want to play our green source out? Probably. Let's fire off a Duress here. So I think the scariest thing here is the Narset, because this gives them multiple draws. We don't want them to be able to dig for their best spells in the matchup. We have ways of getting through the Force of Negation. Right, there's the other Scalding Tarn. I don't expect our opponent to make a play this turn. Over to us. Elvish Spirit Guide. Do I think it's worth trying to beat down here? That's an interesting question. It does allow us to pressure stuff. They bounce it with a Teferi, it's not the end of the world. Sure. We're going to try putting something into play. So that if we sit at parity, we at least chip away. Now, there are definitely punishes for this. Like if they have another Blood Moon that they drop, we've kind of lost our green source. One of our green sources. But we have something to pressure a Teferi. Right, so they're cracking a Scalding Tarn. Tundra. I imagine we're going to see a Teferi. Like, if they just play Teferi and bounce our Elvish Spirit Guide, doesn't really bother us. It's not a waste of our turn because our turn wasn't doing anything else. Right, so there's a Teferi. And they are bouncing it. So we got our mana back if we wanted to. Sure. A Thespian stage, you say? Certainly interested in that one. Now I'm more inclined to try and keep this Spirit Guide in hand. Interesting. No, I think we do deploy this. Try and get something out of our opponent. Right, we should at least be able to get rid of the Teferi, which means they can't instant speed Prismatic ending our Marilyn. A sad thing to happen. We used to have things like Steely Resolve for this matchup, but I just didn't really feel that needed anymore. That was mainly a thing that came around during like the initiative times. Alright. So they could Hull Breacher. Alright, we are in a reasonable spot here. Let's attack this Teferi. Come on, Mr. Teferi. You're going to Hull Breacher here? They are. We could give our thing Hexproof if we wanted to. I think that's where we want to be here. Oh no, just taking it. Interesting. So we get to act on our opponent's turn, and giving our creature Hexproof is going to be pretty useful, I would hope. I think the Days Undoing here, we make our guy in response. You know, if they try and plow it, we Safekeeping it, and they can't use this Force of Negation to defend themselves. A Narset. Okay, that's less mana that they have. Let's see what they're working with over there. A Ponder. So our opponent might be inclined to kill this on our turn where they can Force of Negation it, which is certainly an annoyance. Is it going to get better for us or not, though, is the question. Is it going to get better or not? It doesn't feel like it's going to get better for us. I think we are supposed to go here. Maybe they'll try and... They shouldn't because they've got the Force of Negation. They should try and kill it in our turn. But maybe they'll try and kill it now. Okay. We will get 2 cards out of our opponent's hand off this Tamiyo Safekeeping, though. Force of Negation, pitching a Spell Pierce. Sure, so we gain a whole bunch of life. And then we now have a thing to keep it going again for next turn. Let's tap the Narset here. Stop them getting an additional card. we've got lots of life to work with. There's the Ponder. So the other option there was to like try and hold up for Duresses and things. But that feels like an absolute fool's errand. Because we've already gone through 2 Duresses. And the longer the game goes, the more a blue deck gets to sculpt. We've already seen that they've got a Ponder in hand. So if you go to another turn cycle, they get to look at potentially 4 cards. And it's just going to go pretty south for us from there. So sometimes with our deck, you do get in a position where you have to go for it. Sure. An interesting use of that card. That suggests to me that our opponent does not have a Teferi. We've already seen Spell Pierce from our opponent, so we're going to play this Bayou now. As annoying as that is. It does mean that if they cast a wheel, it's annoying, but such is life sometimes. Okay, we've got Dark Depths now. So them using that Prismatic Ending might suggest they have a wheel and they're just going to reset the hand afterwards. So they might as well use that resource while it was there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so they've got an actual win condition. Sure. So the amount of turns left in this game has definitely changed. This card is pretty big news for Jeskai decks that normally were basically struggling to win the game a lot of the time. Alright. An Elvish Spirit Guide. I think I will cast this Elvish Spirit Guide. This does change the clock slightly, which is nice. But we're looking for a payoff. One of our bits of our combo. Another Narset. Not great. What would you like to find? What horrible thing am I going to get ruined by here? A Day's Undoing. Alright. Are we going to attack us and then just get a whole grip and loads of mana? That's probably quite good. We do gain +1 card here. Are we blocking one of these? I suppose so. Gives us a little bit more time. Keeping it back keeps the Hull Breacher at bay, but if they find any removal when they're about to draw 7, then that was a waste of time, so we might as well get it out. Alright, here comes the Day's Undoing. Our opponent's going to get a load of stuff. Oh, sorry, this isn't just like Narset. This is any card other than the one you draw in your draw step, sure. It's not just a second card, so we don't actually get another card from that. Alright. Again, our opponent is winning this game, is almost certainly going to win this game, but there is a very minor chance that we can actually win the game. So we have to keep playing it. 4th Eolingus. Yeah, sure, that'll do. That's enough that they can close the game out this turn. Sure, it's a bit of a sad one to lose that one, but we did mulligan very badly in that one. We still managed to present close to winning the game, but couldn't quite get there. Alright, let's go to round 3. Our opponent's on a 61 card deck. We're on the play, we got a Thoughtseize. We're kind of waiting for our other piece, is the problem here. We do have a lot of protection. We could just roll 2 pieces of protection into, or 3 pieces of protection, and try and draw into either 4 Hexmage, 4 Thespian Stage, 4 Crop Rotation, 4 Sylvan Scrying. That's 16 cards. We were mulligan a lot. Let's see if we are rewarded for keeping this one. I think we do lead out on a Bayou. If they want to play the Wasteland game, that's okay with me. Let's see what our opponent's working with. They are a 61 card deck, so they could have been a selection of things. What do we want to deal with here? Green Sun Zenith might be pretty annoying for us. They might have something horrible that I don't really want to think about. So we'll take that. Our opponent could have cast their free spell once upon a time in response, but then we would have got more information, although they might have got more information if we chose the thing they hit with it. So, but they could have turned it into a land, I guess, which would have forced the Green Sun Zenith. I don't know. Interesting. Okay, so Verdant Catacombs down, and the Once Upon a Time is down. A Knight of the Reliquary. Wish I had the Thoughtseize now. We've also, you can see, a Wasteland in our opponent's hand. So we got a lot of hurdles to cross here. Oh, we drew a Thoughtseize. Okay, that's good. Let's Thoughtseize, get rid of this nasty Knight of the Reliquary. Collector Ouphe, we don't care about. Okay, and then I think we just play out this Verdant Catacombs and pass. So we could get Wasteland off our Bayou here, Or they might just jam a Collector Ouphe as a thing that's in play and can advance their game state. There's the Wasteland. That's what they go for. No, they're just going straight for that. Sure. That's fine by me. Another Bayou. So I think this turn we're on Bojuka Bog away their stuff. This takes a Wasteland out. So if they have a Raminut Excavator, we don't have to worry about that. I don't think we need to Duress this turn. We want to get that closer to when we're trying to go off in case our opponent has anything. There's the Windswept Heath. We're going to see the Collector Ouphe here as a creature. I suspect so. But they might have drawn one of their other 2-drops or a Green Sun that they want to fire off. There's the Ouphe. So our Lotus Petals no longer work, but we don't really need Lotus Petals at this stage. Alright. With such a surplus of Duresses, we may as well fire one off here. We'll take a Prismatic Ending. And I guess we're going to play out this... I'm going to play out this Dark Depths. Our opponent probably has Thespian Stage in their deck. If they're like Abzan Depths type stuff. So I think we can't just hang out our Dark Depths. We need to kind of play a little bit more cautiously. Which is annoying. But we've got an 8-turn clock facing us. So it's not a lot of pressure. But their deck is full of creatures, I think. Because Green Sun says, yep, so there's one of the worst case scenarios for us. That's like the scariest creature they have. Sylvan Scrying, you say. Alright, let's go green, black. Let's get the Sylvan Scrying. Let's go Thespian Stage. Let's play a Thespian Stage. Let's have another Bayou. Oh, we didn't have another Bayou in there, do we? Oh, this is kind of awkward then. If we want to Thoughtseize, if you want to Duress, no, we'll get the forest here. We're not going to Duress now, but we're going to at least threaten a crop rotation. So our opponent is reluctant to Wasteland. But yeah, there's neither Reliquary is going to be able to get Caracas and Wasteland. So we're going to be having a bad time. Alright, here comes something bad. A Wasteland. So now they let us untap. That's interesting. So we Duress our opponent because that's what we have. Right, we lead them with the Bayou. And I think we don't want to play this Dark Depths because it's just going to get Wastelanded. Alright. I don't think we can win this game. If our opponent plays correctly, I think they are a lock to win this game now. They can hold up this Wasteland. They can go and get themselves either another Wasteland or a Caracas. I would love to turn our Thespian Stage into something here. Like a basic land. Our opponent clearly knows this, so we're just going to see if we can get them to pop their Wasteland. We'll copy this Swamp. I'm expecting this to get Wastelanded in response, but it might not. It might consider this bait, sure. Now it's kind of bait. It's a thing we have to work through. Like if we cast the Pithing Needle, they will Wasteland in response anyway. Right, so they're going to get another Wasteland, I think, here. Or they're going to get the Caracas. Either one of them pretty useful. Another Wasteland. Over to us. Sylvan Scrying, you say. Let's have one of those. Let's get ourselves the Thespian Stage. And back to this little chestnut again. Again, we're in a situation where we kind of have to bait out. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, so this will copy. Do we need a second green source or do we need a black source? We need a black source here. Right, so let's copy the Swamp here while they get rid of our Bayou. So this means they can't Wasteland us off of the Thespian Stage. But we do have this Dark Depths. So they're not going to attack with their Knight. Oh, they are attacking with their Knight. Oh, it's because it's lethal damage. That would be why. Yeah, yes. My eyes were on the prize and not the thing that was just about to kill us. Yep, sure. Not much we can do about that one. Maybe we should have mulliganed slightly more aggressively. We had quite a lot of disruption though. Alright. So our opponent is going to be trying to remove our lands and our things. This is where we get to test Tamiyo's Safekeeping. However, Pithing Needle also still great here. Duress, not so good. So I think we're trimming those, bringing in an Abrupt Decay. I don't think our opponent's going to have moons and stuff like that. All these things are going to have useful things on it. So we're going to run it like this. So we've got 6 protection spells for our actual Marit and Pithing Needles. Yeah, this seems suitable. Opening hand. Wasteland protection. Access to our combo. Sure. We'll keep this. It's going to get Bayou. Wasteland. Alright. This is kind of one of the matchups I wanted to test in terms of our, like, Tamiyo's Safekeeping, whatever it's called. But traditionally, lands, like I said, is a terrible matchup, and lands adjacent stuff like SIDEBOARD, also a pretty horrible matchup. What do we have available to us here? We have 3 mana. So if we play this out, tap both of our lands and this, that's 3 mana in our pool. Go down a mana for a Dark Depths. Go down another mana, still not enough. Okay. So I think we have to start with a Thoughtseize, because if our opponent untaps and plays a Knight of the Reliquary, that's incredibly bad for us. Okay, they got a combo finish. A Shoulder's Edict, though. That's a bit mean. Let's get that out of here. And I think we Sylvan Scrying now for the Dark Depths. So we can turn the Bayou into Yavimaya, and then turn our Swamp into a Thespian stage, and we can try and combo our opponent. Now they will have an Endurance to block with. So it's not just going to be a one-hit kill. It might be a one-hit kill. Alright, understood. Let's go to our opponent's end step. They might play the Endurance out now, just to be mana efficient. Yep, there it is. As expected. Maybe they'll play Yavimaya and help us out. They could kill us this turn if they draw Chain of Smog. But we have the Abrupt Decay if they have that, so we're kind of covered. A Green Sun Zenith for 3. This is going to find them a Knight of the Reliquary. Yes, sure. So we should have this game. It's a bit more mavericky than SIDEBOARD, this one. Alright, so we go green mana. Crop rotate away our Bayou. For a... we're going to need a black source if we want to kill this Knight of the Reliquary, though. We get Yavimaya here. Because we can make our thing now. But if we don't draw a black source to kill their Endurance, we don't kill them in one hit. I think we just have to kill this. It's a bit of a cautious way of playing. But, I don't know, maybe my draws have been a bit shaky today. Okay. We're back to where we were a second ago. We do need to pressure our opponent because eventually they'll draw the ability to just kill us. And that will be bad. I do not believe they're going to attack with Endurance unless they have another one in hand. There is a Wasteland. We have that covered with Pithing Needle. For a very brief moment I was like very worried. Can we draw another Green Sun Zenith? Or is this another Knight? Another Green Sun Zenith. This isn't so bad because we get Pithing Needle on our turn that we can definitely cast. I do not believe our opponent's going to attack here. They played cautiously so far. Let's rid of this into Thespian stage. Let's make our 2020. Interesting. So we have a choice of whether or not we name the Knight of the Reliquary or we name the thing that we think they're going to get, which would be Caracas. We're definitely casting Pithing Needle. They might have other things that they can use. I think we are right to get the Knight of the Reliquary here as our thing we name. Go attacks. Swing in with a big squiddly diddly. We have protection against one thing. So if they naturally draw a Caracas, we can protect ourselves. If they have a Source to Plowshares, we can protect ourselves. But if they have 2, then we lose. Our opponent only has 1 mystery card in hand though, so about 2 now because they've just drawn for turn. They could play another Endurance and maybe just keep trying to thread together things to stay alive while bashing with their Knight. Alright, our opponent has shown us more of their deck, which makes me want more of our Abrupt Decays in. I do like our tools here though. The fact that Tamiyo Safekeeping protects our lands means I'm more into this than our Not of This World. Slightly. And I do want to test it, so I should probably actually test it, shouldn't I? So we need to find one more cut. What are we looking at here? It might be a piece of fast mana that has to go. But the fast mana is kind of really useful with our Spirit Guides. Do we need all 4 Abrupt Decays? Maybe we only need 3. I do have a lot of really irritating permanents. Tricky. And we know they've got a combo as well. Bojuka Bog has text. I imagine they have Raminac Excavator, so I do think we need the Bojuka Bog. Comes tougher. I don't really want to board out one of our combo pieces. Maybe we are boarding out one of our... They have Collector Ouphe, maybe? Okay, we'll board out one Lotus Petal. It shouldn't make too much of a difference. This hand does not have access to Dark Depths. We will not be keeping this one. This one does have access to Dark Depths and our combo. We will keep this. What do we bin off here is the question. I think it probably has to be one of the decays. A Once Upon a Time to begin from our opponent. Verdant Catacombs that they will then play. And then they will crack it. And are we going to see a Green Sun or are we going to see a Hierarch? A Birds of Paradise. Close enough. This blocks Marit Lage, which is a real thing. Right, I'm going to go and get our basic Swamp, I think, here. Stop our opponent from casting a turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary. Chain of Smog, Life from the Loam, Swords to Plowshares. Not a particular fan of what our opponent's putting down over there. I think it has to be the Plow. Let's see if they're aggressive with their Chain of Smog. Because they might just fire it off at us like a Hymn to Turak. And then depending on how much we think they value the cards in their hand. Because they don't care if we make them discard their Life from the Loam. They probably don't care if we make them discard one of their lands. So if we throw it back at them, they'll definitely throw it back at us again. So I think we're just going to get Chain of Smog here. They could Life from the Loam instead. And try and dredge into a wasteland. That's the other option here. Chain of Smog targeting us. Okay, so we get rid of our Sejiri Steppe. And then we get rid of our Abrupt Decay. We will not copy this spell. Thespian Stage. We're in an awkward spot where we kind of have to play out the forest here. Because we can't protect our stage. Our opponent's clock isn't that fast. There's a Horizon Canopy. I imagine we're going to see the Life from the Loam here. I don't care about our opponent getting some fetch lands. Oh, they're going to just draw from the Horizon Canopy. Alright. Now they're going to do their Life from the Loam. But I don't really care if our opponent gets back. In fact, do I care about the Horizon Canopy? I could go and get a Bojuka Bog right now. Or I could wait till this resolves and then get the Bojuka Bog. Our Sejiri Steppe's already gone. What are we finding with this? Just answers, really, isn't it? Sure. I think I will crop rotate this away and just get rid of their Life from the Loam. Now it's kind of free for us to do. Because this stops our opponent from being able to just keep dredging Life from the Loam until they find a wasteland. If we'd have kept that crop rotation, we'd have been alright. Okay. I guess we need to copy a basic now. While we have the mana available. I would have liked to have copied their Bayou, but maybe that was cowardly. It's the Knight, they find the Knight. They found a Green Sun for the Knight. Yep. The deck with 8 Knight of the Reliquary is pretty scary for us, especially when they're casting on turn 2 every game. Well, that's the plan anyway. They don't obviously cast on turn 2 every game. What do we have here? Deck. A Sylvan Scrying. Does that help us here? We can make our Dark Depths token. What do you think our opponent has in hand? If you get an Urborg here, we play our Urborg and then play our Hexmage. So this is face up now. Which gives us, because we can't do it all really. Like, I guess next turn we could try and play the Hexmage and the Dark Depths. And try and get both things going at once. Alright, so we've got Prismatic Ending here. Don't want this to be exiled. Alright. I'm very surprised they still have Prismatic Endings in their deck. Right, so they have a Wasteland here, which can't hit our Thespian stage. They can hit our Urborg though. Like, the other play we had was to wait for a turn and then play Hexmage and Depths at the same time. And try and combo off and then combo off again. The problem with that is our opponent does get to Caracas. Alright. We just drawn it anyway. There's our friend. So the question here is, does our opponent have a Caracas in their deck? If they do, we can't actually beat what's going on. This is why I do not like playing these matchups. Targeting our Dark Depths. Okay, this means our opponent has a Caracas over there, which is awkward. And we still have to do this. Our Hexmage only costs us 1 card, so it's not as bad. Like, we're losing the Dark Depths anyway. If they do this, it means that Ghost Quarter is a thing that we can use to get rid of their thing. So there's the Karakas from hand. Sure. So we need to get rid of their Karakas and find a Dark Depths. And our opponent is also a deck that has Swords to Plowshares in it. So many angles covering us up here. They probably have a Boseiju as well. So it's just bad news all over. No attack though. Let's go and get our Dark Depths. We cannot play our Dark Depths. We are now waiting for Pithing Needle. Opponent might have a Ghost Quarter in their deck. Just a Wasteland, sure. We're going to go for our Urborg here. No, they're just casting a threat, sure. And now they've got 10 power on board. There's a Windset Heath. They're cracking the Heath. Alright, so attacking here for 11, which puts us to 6. So we need to find Pithing Needle this turn. And we still have the Wasteland to deal with. Tamiyo's Safekeeping. We don't have a choice here. Maybe our opponent will get cocky and try and Karakas our thing in blocks. I think if they're smart, they'll Wasteland end of turn here. Yeah. So we make the thing. We make the thing, they Karakas it now, so they can untap their Karakas. Or we can Tamiyo Safekeeping this to gain 2 life. And then force the Karakas next turn. The only way we win this is if our opponent makes a mistake. I keep saying that today, which I'm not very happy about. Alright. Yeah, just Wastelands every turn, plus Karakas is so much to deal with. Alright. Please just go to your turn. Make the mistake. They did not make the mistake. And then we're dead. Yeah, so these sort of lands adjacent matchups are real hard. This looks a lot more like Maverick than Knight of Depths, but it did still have all the problem cards of the Karakas, the Plows, the Wastelands, the Knight that keeps recurring these things. And Knight is so much better than Elvish Reclaimer because it gets it untapped. It's just backbreaking, really. Yeah, we're 0-3. Not a great league so far. Let's see if we can turn it around a little bit. Okay, our hand can certainly get there with a decent amount of protection. So let's keep this one. That's what our opponent is working with over there. A Watery Grave. Okay, Death Shadow. They're going to be Thoughtseizing us. They're going to be counterspelling us and Wastelanding us. It's going to be ugly. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. That does change things slightly. We play this out. Then we'll play our Lotus Petal. Which lets us play around Days if it needs to be. And then we will play Pithing Needle on Wasteland. We could have operated this game very differently by playing out the Verdant Catacombs in the Petal and then Thoughtseizing our opponent off of a Bayou perhaps. But I think this is the safer route that gives us the quicker way to winning the game. Because we can just next turn we get to Thoughtseize. Now Not of This World's not going to be great in this matchup. Depending on their presence of borrowers and things, but we'll see. Orcish Bowmasters. Alright, the first Orcish Bowmasters. Is this the first Orcish Bowmaster of the day? I think it is. Feels like it is. And that's not a card that really bothers us, so that's nice. Okay. A Sylvan Scrying, you say. So we can play this out. We can crack this for a Bayou here. I want to Thoughtseize and see that we can resolve our spells here. Days, Murktide Regent, Orcish Bowmasters, and Wasteland. So we take the Orcish Bowmasters here. Sorry, we take the Murktide Regent here. Leave them with Days and Orcish Bowmasters. And then we crop rotate our Bayou away. And we can pay around the Days here. Do you want to trade your Days for my Lotus Petal opponent? They do. Okay, that's fine by me. That's why I made the play. And we're going to get Dark Depths into play here. And next turn we play Thespian stage and we can make an uncounterable 20/20. And our opponent has no way of blocking it at present. There's the Watery Grave we know about. Our opponent might play a Bowmasters now, just as an additional strength to the clock here, because it will ping us 1 and pump their existing token that can already attack. So they get to come in for 3, but that's not going to be enough to stop what we're doing over here. We have 1 mystery card in hand. We play our Thespian stage. We will pass the turn. I have Brazen Borrower beat as well. A Ponder from our opponent, sure. Polluted Delta. A Reanimate on Murktide Regent. Sure. We do beat this. Actually, do we beat this? Not immediately. We do beat it over 2 turns though. And our opponent does not have a very strong clock. We could play slower, but I don't think that's necessarily where we want to be here. Our opponent's only on 5 actually. We have the Knot of this World to keep us extra safe as well. Sylvan Scrying. We don't need to do that now. We just need to attack. Because if we'd have waited another turn, we could have Sylvan Scrying for a Sejiri Steppe and fire it off immediately. But as it stands, we're just going to have Knot of this World available around double days. There's a Wasteland that doesn't affect us. We might be able to cast a Murktide Regent here. Alright, they got nothing. Excellent. Cool. So, what would I like in this matchup? I think Abrupt Decays and Tamiyo's Safekeeping all have some merit here. Not of this world sometimes does, depending on if they've got heavier into borrowers. We're definitely keeping our Pithing Needles here, that's a given. Our Bojuka Bog can sometimes do stuff here. It's not really where I want to be. That's the thing that we can cut here. Duresses, we need to get rid of the Edict, same with the Thoughtseize. Actually, we don't want Not of this world here in this matchup, do we? So take these out, and we have 1 Abrupt Decay in, 3 Abrupt Decays in. That's probably where we're at, isn't it? We can have the 4th Abrupt Decay over a Bojuka Bog, if we think that's relevant. I would like to try one of these Tamiyo's Safekeepings, though. This is extra Wasteland protection. And sometimes a random 2 life can be good. I'm not sure I would regularly board that in there, but I think it's worth trying. We don't have access to our Dark Depths, so we have to mulligan. This does have access to Dark Depths, but we'll be trying to draw the other pieces, but we have a lot of disruption here. Is that good enough just to have a really heavy disruption hand? I don't really think it is. But I'm going to test it out. This is normally one I'd throw back, I would think, but I think I'm going to give it a bit of a testing here and see how we feel with it. A Street Wraith, cycling for 2 life. Or an older school build, right? They're on Street Wraiths instead of Trolls, maybe. Again, Thoughtseize, sure. You're going to take our crop rotation and leave us with nothing. This is one of the reasons I don't like this. But again, we're playing against the Thoughtseize counterspell hand, so... Oh, they took the Thoughtseize. So every turn they can attack our hand, it's going to get bad. So if we mulligan heavily, it takes less cards of theirs to mess with us. Right, Pithing Needle is something I like here. Okay, they're just taking the Thoughtseize out of our hand, sure. Interesting use of that card, but sure. Right, so we're going to fire this off now for a Swamp. I think we are going to play this Pithing Needle rather than the Duress. Because Duress, we're trying to hit the Edict when the time is relevant. Force of Negation, pitching Force of Will. Okay, our opponent's only got 2 cards left in hand. I imagine one of those cards is a Wasteland. That's my assumption here. A Brainstorm, sure. A Wasteland, untapped. No shuffle though. Right, it found a threat. We have an answer to said threat. So we'll play out the Bayou, and we're not going to fire off this Duress. So I think we're showing why I was pretty skeptical about keeping this hand. Alright, there's a Wasteland. Are they going to fire it off now? If they do, we will crop rotate in response. Otherwise, we're kind of going to sit here and just take some damages. So we can Abrupt Decay here and try and bait out this Wasteland. That takes us off green. I don't think we can do that. A Pithing Needle, you say? Let's cast Pithing Needle for Wasteland, where our opponent has got no cards in hand. I imagine they're going to Wasteland in response. And we're going to crop rotate away our... Do I want this Tamiyo Safekeeping as protection for Wasteland? I've got in the deck here. I think so. It's a little bit of extra protection. I think basically our hand was bad and we shouldn't have kept it. But that's why I normally throw these ones back, but I wanted to test it out and it doesn't hurt to show people what happens. We don't have access to Dark Depths here. We don't have access to Dark Depths here, so this is a mulligan as well. This has access to lots of things I like. We're going to keep this. 2 cards on the bottom, you say. A little bit awkward, but how many discard spells do I want to keep? How many Sylvan Scryings do I want to keep? Sylvan Scrying does just get us there, so I think we're just going to keep the Thoughtseize. And begin with Thoughtseize and then start Sylvan Scrying our way into this game. Opponent kept 5. Let's see how good your 5 is, opponent. A Surgical Extraction, a Thoughtseize. We can't really let them have Thoughtseize here. It's kind of our whole jam. Alright, have your Delver of Secrets. Because if they Thoughtseize, Surgical Extract our Sylvan Scrying, then we have nothing. And that's bad. There's Water Grave. I imagine we see the Delver here. They just want to get a clock going. That's what I would do here. Yeah. They don't immediately need... Well, it doesn't look like they immediately need an answer for anything here. Vampire Hexmage, you say? Alright, you can do that. That's A-okay with me. I do not want to draw any Thoughtseizes, so you're helping me out there, opponent. I guess I'm probably going to want a Thoughtseize at some point if we need to check for the Edict effect. Did our opponent draw a Daze with their 1 card? They did not. Okay, so we now have access to the Dark Depths. Excellent. If we draw a Lotus Petal, we can try and present a 20/20 as early as next turn. If we don't, then we can Sylvan Scrying and play our Thespian stage. We'll keep the Dark Depths in hand just to dodge Wastelands for as long as possible. A Force of Will. Okay. So our Sylvan Scrying, unlikely to resolve. But we will get the Ponder out of our opponent's hand. And then any black source will do it for us. Nope, they're doing the Ponder. That means they probably have another blue card in hand. Otherwise, I think you've got to keep that Force of Will because you know we can tutor up the other half of our combo there. They decided to not shuffle their library. Not a fan of when our opponent does that. Surgical Extraction on Sylvan Scrying. Whatever you say, opponent. Our opponent is using these in a very weird way. Like, that one makes sense because they know we had the other Sylvan Scrying. But the one on the Thoughtseize made 0 sense to me. Right, we're going to go and get ourselves a Bayou here. We're expecting to get Force of Willed. But if we don't, we can at least pepper our opponent a bit and represent some stuff going forward. Yep, so here's the Force of Will. They did have another blue card. A Daze. Okay, so our opponent has just a 3-2 and they're going to draw for turn. We have got most of the things we need and our green spells are very likely to resolve in this situation. We don't have any more Sylvan Scryings, we still have 4 crop rotations. So I think we are favoured in this game, percentage-wise. But every time we brick, that's going to change the maths a bit. And if they find certain payoffs like a Wasteland, that's certainly going to help too. A Ghost Quarter. So I think we play out the Dark Depths now in case we draw a Thespian stage next turn. But our opponent hasn't... No, I think we do play out the Ghost Quarter here. Reason for this is we can afford to take another hit and then we can play it out next turn if we have to. So Vampire Hexmage is a live draw. Crop Rotation is a live draw. Thespian stage is a live draw. We can play out our Thespian stage and turn it into a basic as well. We can Ghost Quarter away a Wasteland. Whether or not our opponent has basics, I'm not sure. I don't think we saw any in the other games. Should have been paying slightly more attention to that, to be honest with you. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Okay, we have a Tamiyo Safekeeping, so I'm happy to play out this Dark Depths now. We can also gain 2 life, which might change the clock slightly. We're not going to be paying to remove counters. That's not going to be necessary here. I'd rather be able to play around certain spells. A Street Wraith, sure. Another Street Wraith. A Brainstorm. So our opponent's got quite a lot of good draws here. Wasteland is one of them. Are they going to fire it off immediately? Or are they going to wait? Let's find out. So Tamiyo Safekeeping is actually going to do something, which is interesting. Something that our Apostle's Blessing that we're playing in that spot before wouldn't normally do. Okay, we've bought ourselves some more time. That's exciting, isn't it? Gains us 2 life. Force of Negation they had. Okay. Very rude. So now we need to draw both halves of our combo again. Our opponent's draws have been pretty phenomenal this game. I think they even used them in a way that I would not recommend. They're still getting the business done. I think we have to kill this. Alright, now our opponent can play a Death Shadow, which would be quite large. Possible big enough to kill us in a single swing if they find anything else, but they didn't have it. Are we going to play out a Bayou? Yes, we are. Let's carry on. Do we think our opponent has a basic land in their deck? Or are we saving this to stop their Wasteland? Do I think our opponent has a basic land in their deck? I think we are supposed to use a Ghost Quarter to stop Wasteland. Like, The Death Shadow builds these days definitely are having, so they got land anyway, are definitely having a lot more in the way of... Okay, so we're going to see a Murktide here, which is probably going to kill her. Oh, a counterbalance. That's fine. I don't mind that. Okay. I guess we have an answer for counterbalance if we want it. I guess we can do this and see if our opponent has a basic in their deck. Oh, sorry, this doesn't get basics. It can get any land, can't it? Yeah, sure. All right. Don't know if our opponent has basics. Death Shadow. Okay, that's terrible for us. That's a lethal hit. And then we have this. I'm going to have a look at our opponent's deck and see if they have a basic. Most Shadow builds do these days. Oh, they didn't. Okay, we could have kept them off of something for a bit longer. Alright, we are having a really bad league so far. This is an 0-4, and now we're trying to avoid the reverse trophy. Yuck. Things just falling in a slightly awkward way for us repeatedly. Like, our opponent did have Thoughtseize, Surgical, Force, and then they managed to draw the other Force at the right time as well. It's just a lot of stuff for us to get through. And our draw's not so great. Alright, let's go to the final round. Let's see if we can save this car crash. Alright, we're on the play for the final round. We have a turn 2 combo with protection in the form of Pithing Needle. Alright. I've been burned a few times today. We're going to see if we can turn it around right now at the last possible moment. Pithing Needle on Wasteland. We'll deploy our Lotus Petals because they can be crop rotations. And we don't know if our opponent's going to play something that's going to mess with us. We kind of look like a Saga Storm deck right now. But we'll see what our opponent thinks. Right, a blue spell. That's not great for us. A Vampire Hexmage. That is a fine spell. This doesn't cost us as much if we go for the crop rotation line. That's why Hexmage is so good. Ah, what are you doing, opponent? Why are you cracking your land? Why would you do that to me? Oh dear, an Underground Sea. A Brainstorm. Okay, our opponent's digging. Then we'll play our Dark Depths. I think we do it now to dodge... Oh, we don't have to dodge Wasteland. What am I talking about? We've got a Pithing Needle. Alright. Let's see if our opponent has 2 mana and keeps it open. If they do, we can just keep beating with Hexmage. And they just have to keep 2 mana open at all times. That's a really good situation for us. If they don't keep 2 mana open, we get to do our thing. I guess if they have Bowmasters and the Edict, they can force some action by pinging our Hexmage. We do have Sejiri Steppe in an emergency. But how likely is that to actually do the things we need it to do? Again, our opponent could just be a full-on combo deck here. We just don't know what they're playing. I'm expecting it to be one of these sort of blue-black Bowmaster type decks. There's a Wasteland. Alright. So they have Edict available if they want it. Understood. Let's go attacks. An Orcish Bowmasters. Forcing the action on this. We also stop them getting a 1-1 by doing it like that as well. Compare our Yavimaya. We have 2 crop rotations. So we can try and beat the... what's it called? Brazen Borrower. Alright, they didn't have anything. On the board. Let's see if we can convert this one into a victory for us. Abrupt Decays. These are nice. I don't really like Not of This World. I just want maximum discard. Bojuka Bog isn't actually that useful here in my opinion. Let's just take these decays. So our plan is to slow our opponent a little bit with decays. We'll get rid of blockers and just do our regular thing, relying on our Thoughtseizes. This does access our combo. And we at least have the important bit in our hand as well. Okay, a Flooded Strand. We're going to get Thoughtseize on turn 1. No, we're not. They're doing a Ponder. Right. It's not too bad for us. So we're going to go Swamp into Lotus Petal and then Pithing Needle. Having the Lotus Petal out means that we can crop rotate if we need to. As well as pay for a daze. Kind of want to get a Bayou now. Let's do that. Play this out first, play around days. Play out Pithing Needle. Is this your fight, opponent? No, it isn't. Wasteland. And then we'll pass a turn. If they somehow get rid of our Pithing Needle in a blue-black deck, then we can, and waste down our Bayou, we can still crop rotate it. Alright, so our opponent is representing an Edict or Bowmasters here. How important is it for us to try and get this Hexmage to resolve? I think it's very worthwhile. Alright, they can force action with a Bowmasters, Fatal Push, or with a removal spell. We don't have the land to protect it with a Sejiri Steppe. I don't think our opponent is trying to kill it with Sejiri Steppe, with target removal. I think our opponent is trying to kill it with a Shoulder's Edict. And they felt they would be better off just forcing the action that turn. Oh, just a brainstorm. Sure. Maybe they don't have anything and we get to win the game. We do get to win the game. Okay. We got one. We avoided the reverse trophy. So this is still the build that I am a fan of. I think the variance that we felt today was a little bit against us more than normal. But we definitely could have mulliganed some of the hands. Like I did say, we're going to keep this one hand because I would normally throw this back, but we're going to have it. And at the end of the day, what I use my leagues for a lot is, that I'm recording as well, is to test out new stuff. Like it's all very well showing you me playing the turbodepths list or whatever and being super spiky with it, but trying out a few new cards or slightly different play patterns to see if they work is useful for my testing for the big tournament I'm going to in September, as well as being more interesting for you guys, because it means you get to see all sorts of different play patterns and maybe why they don't work. So I think this list is still the list I want to jam in terms of the main deck. However, I think the sideboard, I'm erring to changing these Tamiyo Safekeepings into some Inquisitions of Kozilek's, because so often I'm just thinking I'd really like some more discard. That would be the thing that gets us across the line here, would be more discard. And I don't think we can run Cabal Therapy, even though we get to name it and take all of the copies of something. So maybe Cabal Therapy is good because we know what we're naming in certain matchups most of the time. But that's sort of as like a turn 3 discard spell, you want the Cabal Therapy, whereas a turn 1 you would want the Inquisition. So maybe we do just want Inquisitions because they're also good against other stuff. Because I think it's just the most general way of answering things, right? If people are trying to answer us with permanents, then we've got Abrupt Decays. And if they're trying to answer us with spells, I think just Duresses and Thoughtseize and stuff is just way more effective than trying to Tamiyo Safekeeping. Because the problem with Tamiyo Safekeeping is you have to cast it on the turn that you're doing all of your stuff. So it's just +1 mana tax on your combo. Whereas you can Duress beforehand or Inquisition beforehand and then have the mana to go. So I think my next build that I'll play probably next week or whatever will be -2 Safekeeping +2 Inquisition of Kozilek in the sideboard, but probably keep the rest the same. I think the Not of This World is fine. There's definitely matchups where I'm going to want that. I do like that this can protect lands, but we are kind of indexed heavily into Pithing Needles for it. So I do think Pithing Needles are just better. It's a case of, do we need more effects like this? And that's certainly a possibility. But if we want more effects like that, maybe we'd even be better off by playing Sorcerer's Spyglass, because A, it gives us information to know if the coast is clear or not, and B, it doesn't tax us on the turn that we're trying to go off. We can play it beforehand and then sort of establish what we're doing. It also dodges things like Chalice, if that's relevant. So I think maybe I might try a Sorcerer's Spyglass. Maybe that's what we'll test next time instead of the Inquisitions. But I think the Inquisition is probably like the best thing we can be doing, so I'm going to try that for now. And that's probably what I'm going to do. My next sessions are going to be testing those two cards. Maybe we'll drop the Not of This World for a Spyglass from these two for Inquisitions, so we can get a nice testing of slightly different tools going on. But yeah, sorry, not a very successful run with the old turbodepths today. But that's the nature of the beast sometimes. We are playing a deck that doesn't have the ability to just play the game with a lot of hands. We basically need to find a tutor effect or a Dark Depths in our opener for our hand to be keepable, which means that we end up mulliganing quite a lot. Now, we mulligan more today than I would normally like to do. Like, mulliganing to 6 or 5, you know, that happens quite often. It's very rare you keep a 7, to be honest, and you usually win when you do. But we felt like we were going a lot lower, and some of the hands we were mulliganing to were still kind of ropey. So a little bit unfortunate there, but I think we could have tightened up some play in some areas with our mulligans. But sometimes your opponents are just going to have the things that get you, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try and learn from the games that got you there in the first place. So I hope you enjoy this one. The Tamiyo Safekeeping looked okay, I would say, but the cost is so much. And the only thing that this has on top of Not of This World is blocking against lands. I think if we're trying to stop spells, we want Not of This World. If we're trying to stop lands, we want a Sorcerer's Spyglass. Tamiyo Safekeeping kind of does both of those things worse. And I don't think we're a deck that can afford to play tools that are worse at their job. Obviously, Sorcerer's Spyglass is worse than Pithing Needle, but it does have other text, right? Getting to see your opponent's hand is useful. And playing another Pithing Needle is what I would like to do here. So that's probably where I'm going to go. Alright, hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to check out the primer, please go ahead and look at my Patreon in the description below, or just join the Discord, which is also linked below. Say hello, maybe reach out and we can do a donation deck for you. Whatever takes your fancy. Alright, lovely people. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, please, and goodbye.